Good afternoon. Well, we're back on the electronic videos again. The miserable heat and humidity is back. Today is Tuesday. Yesterday morning I met Bob and he brought a ballast, which I don't think is the same thing. It's a URB-009. I tried looking it up. I can't find nothing. I have no luck on the internet whatsoever trying to find things. But I marked down the pinout of the old diode. I mean the ballast. Now, the part that's for the pilot light, the section is burnt out. There's 115 ohms between pins 3 and 8, and I had to make damn sure that it's correct, so I drew a little diagram here. All the other connections are open. So between pins 3 and 8, I get 115 ohms. Okay. I took my voltmeter on AC and put it across the filament pins of the 43 tube. The 43 is supposed to be a 25 volt filament. I cranked it up very slowly on the variac. Of course, I used the isolation transformer. Alright. I cranked it up real slow until I got 25 volts across the filament. After it fully warmed up, I gave it a good minute. And I went up real slow. The input voltage was 109 coming in. Between 107 and 109. I tried to go up to 115 and it went up to about 28 volts across the 43 tube. That's using this ballast. So I think this ballast may be the right one, but I have no idea because there's no numbers on them. And I doubt very highly this is the correct ballast either, because if you go by the numbers, and I have a website that shows you what these numbers mean, in this case M30HG, the 30 is supposed to represent 30 volts drop. That's incorrect. This one has 115 ohms, but I don't know what the drop is on it because I don't know the part number of it. But I seem to get approximately the right voltages as long as I keep this around 110 volt input. Now, this is a mid-30s radio, and 110 volts was quite common. I don't think they went up to 115 until probably the late 30s and maybe the early 40s. So most of your radios ran on 110 volts. So the ballast, of course, is only in series with the filament. So with 110 volts going in here, with the neutral going to the chassis, using this here polarized arrangement that I made up. I would like to have a white clip here, but I don't have a white. I don't think they make them, and you can't really paint it. So we have to be careful. This is not negative and positive. So with the neutral connected to the chassis and the hot connected at this point 1, which is the plate of the 25 Z5 rectifier right here, I'm getting 109 volts DC. Now, if I crank the voltage up to 115, I'm going to get too much voltage on the tube filaments. The pilot light, the number 51, is burnt out. I just checked it on the radio. It's burnt out. And a 47 equivalent, LED equivalent, would stick out a little too much. But it might work. I could probably bend that bracket back. This was out of the cabinet when I got it from Bob, so possibility that something can be improvised here. You've got two wires, two green wires coming off the bulb, and the bulb, like I say, is open. These two filament wires come down and go out here. They come out right here. And one goes right where my clip lead is for the ballast. And the other one and I got to play around now and find out where the other one is right here. Okay. And that is pin 8. So pin 7 and 8 is the pilot light. Okay. Pins 3 and 8 are the only part of the ballast that's working, with 115 ohm DC resistance across it. So what I'll have to do if I want to use this ballast is to eliminate the pilot light and use a number 47 LED, which I've got off of eBay, which is a 6.3 volt bulb, but it's designed to run on AC because it has obviously has a rectifier in the base. Run it off of these leads here and connect these leads directly to the line. One side to the chassis, which is the neutral, and the other side after the power switch. The power switch is not yet wired correctly. I took it off of ground, and this is the wire that was grounded. This wire here, as you can see, it's moving. It goes to pin 1 of the ballast. Now, not knowing the pin out of that ballast, nor the number of that ballast, pin 1 is probably just a tie point. So if I was to put this ballast back in, which I may do because I still didn't get that capacitor from China. It's been about 2 weeks. That's why I hate ordering anything from China, even though it was free shipping. It takes forever. The ballast that Bob gave me is brand new. GE ballast, nice and shiny, brand new. It reads 45.5 ohms. Obviously not the correct ballast. If I was to put that in, I would blow my tubes out. I will still probably use the capacitor. Now, I could try a CL90 in series with this ballast to get the line voltage down for the filaments, leaving the line voltage up for directly to the 25 Z5 plates. So I'll get my voltage. These capacitors are rated at 160. Half-wave rectifier, you're never going to get anywhere near that. You'll probably get about 120, 125 maybe on them at the best. Our line voltage here, I don't know what Bob has, is never very good. The average of about maybe 117 to 118 until we put the dryer on, then it drops way, way down. And we got 2 air conditioners running now in the house. My son's in the front room. I got the master bedroom shut off because I come out here and I put this AC on. I could run them all, but you know, that uses more power. And this one here is only a 5,000, so it's not taking all that much. So anyways, I've got a cord. This is just a temporary, this is my test cord here, which is cut off an old extension cord, and it's polarized, as you can see on the plug. And running through the isolation transformer, which is polarized outlets on it. But the neutral is no longer bonded. if you look back on my videos. So this is a true isolation transformer. No question about that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in with the replacement power cord, which I have right here. It came off of a lamp. It's polarized plug. It's got the white stripe going down. So I'm going to come in here. You don't need a grommet. This has got rounded off edges on the hole here, so you don't have to worry about it. Come in there. This safety cap is connected directly to the chassis. All I do is I take and bring the neutral on here after I put a knot in here. Bring the neutral in here. Find a tie point on the ballast socket where I can put the hot side, and then bring up the wire from the switch up to there. Now I was going to put a fuse in this radio, and I found a fuse holder, but it's the only one I've got. But I haven't got any real place to put it without drilling a hole. And I don't have any pigtail 1 amp fuses. I was going to put a 1 amp fuse in here. It may not need it. Very unlikely. But I will say one thing. This radio audio amplifier works, but I don't get any reception whatsoever. So I think that wire that came up on the coil down here, which is still off, it goes either on this terminal or on this one. Now, if it goes on this one, this is B+. What the last thing I'd want to do is to put that on and kapow and blow that little coil out. You see that little coil back there? Let me get you some light in there. See that coil right there behind this wire? I don't know if you can see it. There's a coil in there. Right underneath this big coil. See the screw there? The screw goes down through the center of that other coil. That's where the thin wire came off of. But it came off of one of these terminals here. But I don't know which one. I don't think it came off of these two. But this is B+ right here. This one. It could be on there. It could be on the other one. Isolation transformer on. Got to turn on the outlet strip. .44 volts going in. So far, only a little over 5 volts on the 43 tube. So let's bring up the voltage, and I'll read the voltage off to you as I climb it here. .50 volts. We're going with 50 volts going in. .61 volts. .79 volts. Now this is AC off of the filament pins of the 43 tube. The 43 tube is a 25 volt filament tube. 85 volts. .92 volts. .100 volts. 106 volts. There we are at 106 volts. So let's bring it to 110. Exactly 110 volts now. So we're already a volt over the tube filament's limit. As you can see, tube is lit. This is the 25Z5. This is the 43. And you can't see the other one with the goat shield in it. Now, the audio's working. So we got 110 volts going in. So obviously this radio, unless the ballast is not the correct one, this is not designed for anything more than 110 volts, so you need a buck transformer. That's what we got on the filament right now. So we've got not quite 25.5 volts, so that's tolerable. This ballast is very hot, which is normal. Now when I get the capacitor in, maybe it'll be regulated better, that it may take the higher voltage and not overvolt these tubes. Now I'm only measuring that one tube, so they're all 300 milliamp tubes. So all of them should be about the same, right at their limit or just a hair over. So I have no idea where that little wire come off of. You can't probably see that. It's in back. You can't see it with these other wires in the way. It's only a little hair thin wire. And I can't even see it now. And I've got reading glasses on, but it's in there. It's in there. Because I didn't take it away. So, I may have to unsolder these wires, or usually unclip them, because they usually don't come out when you try to unsolder them. But regardless, I could take that out, take a picture of it first, take it out, and it screws up through the top of the chassis. So both of these coils, they're connected together on the form. So there's this coil right here, this big coil, and then the little one behind it. And that little one's got very thin wire, so I'm afraid that if I connect it in the wrong place, kapow, I'm going to blow the hell out of the windings, and then you might as well hang it up, because I'm never going to get this thing working. So the volume's all the way up. As you can hear, there's audio. And that this is either the 6D6 or the 6C6. I don't remember now. So the audio's fine, but the radio is dead otherwise. Nothing. The speaker is fine. It's kind of muffled because I got this cardboard in front of it. So the speaker and output transformer, everything's fine. Sounds great as far as the hum is concerned. Okay, I got a CL90 in series with the ballast. So I simply added another clip lead and put that. It goes through the CL90, comes back out and goes into the ballast, and then continues on through here. So in this case here, the ballast is using pins 3 and 7 because 8 is burnt out in the ballast. I mean, yeah, let's see now. No, 3 and 8. 3 and 8. Okay. But I can't connect 8 because the bulb is burnt out. So I got to connect it here. But that's not a problem. It's working. We're going to flip the isolation transformer back on. Alright, we're up to 111 volts. I'm not going to worry about that. Let's flip this on. Drawing only 0.4 amps, which is less than a half amp. The filament is climbing. I haven't touched the variac. All I did is turn off the isolation transformer. I didn't upset the voltage. So with the CFL, I mean the CL90 in series with the ballast, we can probably crank this up a little bit more. But we're letting this warm up. This is quite warm now. Can't keep my finger on it. Alright. Now, as this warms up, I don't know what the resistance drops down to. They're 120 ohms cold, but they vary all over the place. Depends on the temperature of the room. So there's obviously some resistance there anyways. So, I think we may be okay if I use this ballast and the CL90 in series. Well, let's find out. Watch the voltmeter. I'm going to crank up my voltage until I arrive at 115 volts. Alright, let's take a look at the voltage. I'm not even looking at the variac. I'm watching the meter just along with, like you are. What do you know about that? 115 volts drawing a half amp. So I think we solved our problem. As long as we don't have much more than 115 volts. I don't know what Bob has over there for line voltage, but usually when you get a radio made in the 30s and earlier, they're usually 110 volts. Occasionally in the late 30s, they might have went to 115. Because you got to watch out with these series wired sets. Now you notice that I've got the neutral, which is the white wire. Disregard the red clip. I didn't have a white rubber for it. It's connected to the chassis, so it's always going to be neutral to the chassis. And in case you missed my other videos, this radio, as I said in my other video, does not have a floating B-. B- is the chassis. Everything that's grounded is the chassis, including the line. Remember, we're talking about this radio, okay? You want the chassis to be at the ground potential, which is close enough you can get, which would be the neutral. Okay? We're not talking about putting a 3-prong plug on here, but if we were to do that, you would have the neutral bonded and the ground bonded together on this radio. But we don't put 3-prong plugs on a vintage radio like this. What we do is we put a polarized plug and cord on the radio, like the cord I showed you. The voltage is holding very good, and we are reading exactly 115 volts on the variac. Now, that's probably a grid of some kind, audio maybe. Let's see, this is the, alright, this is the 43 output tube, this is the 25 Z5, this is either the 6D6 or 6C6. I don't know, I'd have to pull out the tube and look on the thing there. And this is the one, this is either the 6C6 or 6D6 down here. This is where I'm getting my good audio in here. And the volume control, see, I turned the volume down, turned it back up, but nothing on the radio, completely dead. But I attribute that probably to this wire. If it isn't that, I've got a lot of head scratching to do, because I didn't make any changes in this other than the line cord and the electrolytics. So what's holding me up is waiting for that capacitor to come in. That might solve all this, and I may not need this. But I can't do anything. Bob is not in a hurry for this anyways, but I would like to have that 8 microfarad 250 volt AC fan capacitor and put that instead of this in series in place of the ballast and see what kind of regulation I get on my filaments. Okay, so we'll shut everything off. The CL90 is going to work out quite well if I want to use this ballast. I'll just have to change a couple of things and put the CL90. Well, CL90 is pretty hot. I would probably rather put the CL90 on top, but that means I'd have to drill a little hole over here and stick it on a terminal strip on the top side of the chassis if I use this ballast. I cannot use this other ballast here, this one. This URB-009GE ballast. I cannot use it because it is too low a resistance. I'm not worried about the pinout because I can swap the wires here. This is non-standard anyway, so, you know, I'm not worried about that. Boy, this thing is hot. This is only 45.5 ohms DC resistance, so it's not going to be good. This is 115 ohms, so that's about right for the voltage drop here. Matter of fact, it could probably even stand to be 120 or even 122 ohms. And that might be why I'm getting a higher voltage on here. But of course, as I said, these radios were designed to run on 110 volts AC. All right, I want to touch base on one other thing. Bob ordered a capacitor. I mean, Bob ordered a 43 tube, a used one. And I put it in my Radio City Products tube tester. This one right here, as you see me do a restoration on. And as the tube warms up, it shows a heater to cathode short. Does not show it when I first plug it into the tube tester until the tube warms up, and then the short light comes on and it stays on bright. It don't just flicker. So this tube shows a heater to cathode short as well as the one in here. I had mentioned before that having a heater to cathode short in this type of circuit, actually in a lot of circuits, it's not good because it upsets the bias on the audio output tube by having your filament voltage bleeding over into the cathode. Not only that, it puts AC in there. Although I didn't hear any unusual hum until I touched the top of either the 6D6 or the 6C6. Don't know which one it is, but they look physically the same, but they're two different tubes. So I went with it. I figured, well, I got to put it in. I mean, it could be another bad tube, but maybe not. Maybe my Radio City Products 308 tube tester is too sensitive on shorts. When I redone that tube tester, I replaced everything, what's values are in there, and there's a 500,000 ohm resistor across the neon bulb of the tube tester. That's what the schematic called for, and that is what I replaced it with. And brought it right exactly at 500,000 ohms, not 470,000. I hand-picked some resistors to get it to be 500,000. So maybe the short indicator is too sensitive. I don't know. Maybe when I get rich, I'll get a Hickok. I don't think I'll live long enough to ever get one. I kicked myself for getting rid of my 6000A. That was the biggest mistake I ever made. I should have kept it. But maybe someday I'll get a good tube tester and find out. The tube tester might be wrong. If not, we'll have to order another number 43 tube. And they're not easy to get. Okay, well anyways, that's the update on this radio. And I know you're probably anxious to see more of the picnic table project.
How's that for a show, huh?
But it's too damn hot, and I'm not going to be doing any more with it. The only thing I did get at Home Depot, and I almost fell to the floor yesterday when I went to Home Depot to look at the bargain wood bin, what they call the cull bin, C-U-L. I don't know what it stands for. And now they have a different color coding. The wood that's spray painted orange is $1.01. I picked up a almost brand new, I mean it is new, I mean it didn't have any cracks in it, 2x4 pressure treated 8 foot long. So that takes care of all the 2x4 work that I need for the holding the top on that picnic table. I need 3 8 foot 2x6 pressure treated, and that'll finish the job. Those I'll have to break the bank and buy, but I'm not going to go buying them now because they're going to sit there for until September probably before I get even back on this project. So, you know, we don't know what's going to happen. But if I get a good day, I can do some more out there. And if we do get some good weather, I'll be back on the project again. Meanwhile, I got to do what I can do. I got to hibernate inside. I hate this hot and humid weather. And as far as I'm concerned, anybody that likes it is nuts in the head, and I'll tell them to their face. Take care, everybody. Thank you for watching. How's that for a show, huh?